to talk about today, I'm trying to get through this in about 45 minutes and allow for some questions. I want to talk about, what is a workspace versus a work set? You get that in Open Roads now, the work set. What is a ribbon interface? Things I'll go through, a couple of scenarios where you can customize your interface, use function keys, build tool frames. We'll get into the Open Roads Project Explorer, which is new, newer from Inroads. ORD geometry versus normal microstation graphics. What is the heads-up display? What is that thing popping up when I hover over an element? I don't know, how many of you in here, can you show of hands do GDOT work? Everybody? Okay, cool. So, I'm gonna go over the sheet master, what that is, file federation, what that means, named boundaries, and then finally get into civil cells. These are just kind of the big topics I thought, would be good to go over for somebody jumping in Open Roads, like, hey, what is a civil cell? What is a name boundary? So I'm gonna kind of go over all that. So first of all, what is a workspace? A workspace is a customized environment that contains agent-specific resources and standards. That's pretty much all it is. They're used to make sure we use the right resources. As far as cell libraries, color tables, DGN libraries, fonts, line styles, plot drivers, super elevation, spreadsheets, and template libraries. And GDOT has a workspace that they have built, and they've worked a good while on it. It's out there called GDOT Standards. You can download it from their website. So a workspace basically, it kind of makes sure your sheets and your output look like a GDOT project. All states have a workspace. And when you first open Open Roads, you'll notice, you'll get the option to select a workspace or a work set. So if you're doing a GDOT project, you'll use this workspace right here. There's no other exceptions. Unless you're doing a local project, and you can use this on a local project also. So what is a work set? A work set is, from my experience, all I know of a work set, it's a project folder that kind of organizes your files into a workspace. A work set is attached to a workspace. So each project should have, at least at Low Engineers, we have a work set for every project. And typically I'll name them, whatever PI number is to kind of differentiate them. What is the work set control? From what I know, and I'm speaking from experience here. There's a lot of other ways to do things. I'm speaking from my experience. A work set is just a folder that, when you click on it, it will direct you to the path where your DGNs are. And also, I don't know if you all know this, but inside the work set, in the text file, you can go in here and edit a work set. There's a text file, and you can include your template library. In Open Roads, first thing you will see is the workspace and the work set. So when you click on the workspace, you'll get a different list of work sets, and when you click on a work set, you'll get a different list of drawings, DGNs. So like this for this particular project, I set up a PI number, 7-digit PI number that represents the work set. So when I click this work set, all the drawings from that project come up. That's the difference between a workspace and a work set. Something else you might notice different jumping from En-ROADS to OpenRoads is that ribbon interface up top. I'm still trying to get used to that thing. The ribbon is the container for the workflows, the ribbon tags, ribbon groups, and commands. So up top are your workflows. When you select the workflow, you'll get a different group of ribbon tabs. When you select a ribbon tab, you'll get a different set of ribbon groups. And within each ribbon group, you have several commands. You can customize this stuff, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Also a pretty handy tool in OpenRoads is the search ribbon tool. I've had to use this several times. When you kind of don't know where a command is, you can start typing in that window and it'll pop up where that command is. So the quick access toolbar up top, you can customize that to put things like save file, open, customize, function key, command, and it's up top there. What is the backstage? That's a term in OpenRoads. That's kind of new. So when it's kind of like it is in any Office product, when you hit file, it'll take you back here to this backstage. And in that, you can do a lot of things. You can, let me go back. In here, you can click browse and change the workspace and the work set on the fly. You can customize your user preferences, things like tool settings. And here's where when you hit browse, you have the ability to change the work set and workspace on the fly. At first, I was kind of going in and out of OpenRoads, changing the workspace and coming back in, but I figured out this little quick shortcut right here. User preferences. This is also in the backstage. You can control things like your pointer size, the design background color, what the mouse does. You can do a lot of things with those user preferences, and you can save them to a file. It's called a UPF. And I like to keep this as a backup. So when we get updates from GDOT, and they update from OpenRoads 2022 to 2023, all you got to do is copy this UPF back over, and your OpenRoads looks the same as you had it. So customizing your interface, you can in the backstage, if you go to customize, you can create tool frames. You can create commands in the context menu when you right click. That menu that comes up, that's the context menu. You can customize all that. So I've created like 3 big tool frames, kind of like, or don't like searching for icons. So I put like 30 of them in a tool frame. On the left, I've got one on the left, on the top, and on the bottom. And all that is saved in a DGN library that you may want to keep a backup of also. So the UPF, I usually keep a backup of these 3 files, the UPF, the DGN library, and if you use function keys, I keep a copy of that file too. So you can go in there and customize function keys where you can assign commands to each function key. I may be one of the only ones that do that because I'm from an AutoCAD. I just use AutoCAD and use AutoCAD with left and right hands. Just FYI, you can go in there and in the backstage, go through this function key menu and assign commands to each function key in your keyboard. Now let's get into the open roads, the actual design stuff here. So if you notice in open roads, there's a thing called ORD Explorer. It's kind of like the command center for each file. If you go into, can you all see that open roads model there? So in each file, you're gonna have an open roads model. Don't confuse that with 3D model. This is what's inside this file. So if I've got alignments in here, I'll see a list of those. A terrain model, I'll see a list of those. Corridors, linear geometry, all that stuff. You can go through here, and if you've got a list of alignments, you can expand it and right click and go to properties. You can several different ways you can manipulate your data through the ORD Explorer. And this is just an example in this example, I opened up the topo and it's got the existing terrain model in there. Let me go back. So if you get a topo from survey, and you're kind of doing a QC on it, that's one of the first things you want to look at. Does it have a surface in there, a terrain model? So, check that out in the, Open Roads Explorer window. The heads up display, this is gonna appear when any object is selected. I have learned that on your element selector, before you select an element, you have to have it to, I think that's called original, or you have to have it set to that first button right there. If it's set to plus or minus, sometimes you won't get a heads up display. And when I talk about heads up display, I mean, if I'm in my geometry file and I want to edit the name of the alignment, I can select my power selector, kind of hover over my alignment, and I'll get alignment commands. You can do that with corridor, you can do that with a terrain model, linear geometry. If you hover over it, you're gonna get this heads up display. And depending on what kind of element it is, depending on what list of commands comes up. So horizontal geometry, I kind of learned the hard way. MicroStation graphics and Open Roads geometry are two different things. MicroStation graphics is static. It doesn't move. It's not parametric. When you draw it, it's there, it's done. Can't change it. You can manipulate it with commands, but you can't, it's not smart. So if you go under geometry, the geometry ribbon tab, you're gonna have, I'm gonna go over horizontal tools first. You have all your horizontal tools right here. When you start drawing in Open Roads, you want to use these horizontal geometry tools. Because they're, like I said, they're parametric. You can change the length, you can change the offset, the station, show you, I'll get to that in a minute, the manipulators. But one thing you want to make sure you're following when you use Open Roads geometry are the GDOT feature definitions. They are They're built with level symbology behind them. It depends on, which feature definition you use, how it looks in a cross section, how it looks in a profile, what it does in the plan view. And also that comes in handy when you do quantities. If you put like the EPs on this feature right here, for example, main P, EOP. So what I do, I pull my feature definition toolbar out, and you can kind of dock it up top. That way you know what's active. Because a lot of times you'll be drawing and you're putting it on a totally different feature definition, and you have to go back and change everything. So all the geometry is kind of linked together in OpenRoads. So like for this example right here, this would be like a regular microstation graphic, this curve return right here, this EP radius. If I was to select it, I don't get anything. And OpenRoads, if you put it in there as OpenRoads geometry using the horizontal arc tools, you'll get parametric constraints where you can change the radius, you can change the snap point, you can change the offset from the alignment. And I like to start off, everything should be linked to your alignment when you're doing these layouts. And these things right here with this orange line and this text, those are called manipulators. And they're basically design criteria that is editable. That's all a manipulator and drag handles are. If you notice in this example right here, this arc, I've got a radius that I can edit, and I can also edit the snap. It's telling me I snapped to the end point of that line to draw that arc. And also you can edit the offset from the alignment. So if I was to change that, I don't have OpenRoads. I can't get into it. I wish I could. If I was to change that offset, everything that's connected to that arc would change with it. And that's where you get into, really have to be diligent in the way you lay these things out. Because I learned, like I said, I learned the hard way. Started out laying it out with ORD geometry, and I somehow gotten drawing regular microstation lines. And when I changed my radius, the stuff downstation didn't change. So you kind of want to really pay attention on how you lay this stuff out using ORD geometry with feature definitions. And you can notice just with a simple click, I can change the radius of that arc. And this is just one small example. Same thing with like lines that are offset from an alignment. You have the ability to change the station. I think in this example, I picked station and changed the station. So everything with that line moved down to that station. And again, these are called manipulators. You can just simply click on it and change the design criteria. If it's orange, if it's gray, that means if the properties are, the rule is locked and you can't edit the rule, but you can right click on it and unlock it easily. So all the horizontal tools are rule based. And same thing with vertical. Vertical tools are on the same ribbon tab under geometry. You've got things like vertical lines, vertical curves, complex geometry, create a profile window in here. And same thing with vertical tools. You want to pay attention to your feature definitions when you're designing your, let's just say, a profile. So if I was to like expand that feature, pull down right there, GDOT has set up all the features you need, in here. Can I just get a show of hands of, has everybody used Open Roads and is familiar with feature definitions? Okay, so this is nothing new. So if I've got a profile, same thing applies to profile, vertical geometry as it does horizontal. You can select that profile with your, power selector, and it's parametric. You can change the vertical curve, you can change the K value, just on the fly right there. And when you do that, it updates your corridor, your cross sections, everything down the line. It's pretty cool. So in this example, I think I changed that vertical curve from 448 to, can't read that, 450. Oh, that's a big change. Um, but, you know, En-ROADS, when you had your, profile, you had to go back in there, rerun the corridor, redo your cross sections, all that. Open Roads automatically does all that. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Sheet Master. If you're not familiar with it, the way GDOT sets their sheets up is they don't have, a file for every sheet anymore. It's one file, like for, let's say, for example, the 13 series, it's one file, and they use models inside this file. And the only file that's attached to it is the sheet master, and it's attached with live nesting. So this sheet master is attached to the sheet file, and all of these would be your normal reference files. They're attached to sheet master. And I think the only file in here that uses live nesting besides sheet master is the road file. It has all three of these files, which is where your design is. You know, your super elevation is in super file, your corridor is in the core file, and your geometry, horizontal and vertical, is in the geometry file. It's all attached to the road file. So let me go back here. So you got your sheet master, I mean, your for the construction plan sheets, your 13s. You would have a PI number 13.dgn. The only file that's attached to that is the sheet master using live nesting. And I have talked with GDOT about, they have, I don't have a view of this, but when you attach the sheet master, they set up all the settings in there. You don't need to change anything. It comes from the Z file. You set it to, I think it's called, not Coincident World, but somebody help me out here. Interactive, where you can go in there and change your live nesting. The only thing you need to change is the live nesting. So let's talk about the word file federation. What that means is all your design is in the DGN network. Like Open Roads, you had an ALG, you had a DTM, several DTMs. You had an IRD, your corridor, you had an ITL, your template. What else am I missing? Survey field book. All that was in separate En-ROADS files. In Open Roads, for example, all the geometry is in the geometry. It's actually in the file. And you can reference this data like like, for example, I'm in the geom file right here, doing a profile. If I want to see the existing ground, I'm going to reference the topo. And that's where it gets the existing ground from. If I'm in the corridor and I want to see my super elevation, I attach my super elevation to it. And the cross sections, they have topo, the corridor, and the geometry. It's getting the design data from all those reference files. So that's kind of what file federation is. Another thing is named boundaries. The simplest way I can describe a name boundary is it's a shape that has an associated saved view with it. That's tied to an alignment. And GDOT uses these to set up, they use it to set up plan sheets, profiles, and cross sections. And you can also do quantities within a name boundary. So your name boundary tools are going to be in, I think, drawing production. And when you click on name boundary, you're going to get this box that comes up. You have the option to do plan sheets, profile, cross sections, or you can do just a generic a 2-point name boundary. You can also do a shade too. And then you're gonna set the drawing seat up. And pretty much all this, GDOT has set up all these parameters right here. The length, it changes when you change your detail scale. So for example, on this example right here, I have set up, well, I didn't set it up. I let ORD set it up for me. All I did was pick the alignment and tell it what scale I want, and it places name boundaries along my alignment and cuts plan sheets. It puts your north arrow on there and it fills your match line text out. I think it also puts a scale bar in there. The only thing it doesn't fill out is the title. And you can do that with Title Block Editor. Same thing with profile. You can either use the same group you use for plan sheets to develop your profile sheets, or you can do double window profile sheets. Stack profiles. And with cross sections, you know, in your 23, if you go into your 23.dgn, when you set these sheets up, if you go into your 3D model, you can see this view right here. Don't think you can edit these at the moment, but I wish you could. I go in there and edit a station, but they don't have it set up like that yet. So that's what name boundaries are. And kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about are civil cells. What is a civil cell? You're going to find the civil cell tools under, I think it's the workflow, the modeling workflow, model detailing. Here's all your civil cell commands. And a civil cell, all it is, it's a pre-designed reusable component that represents design intent. If you need repetition, like let's say, for example, you know, you have a lot of driveways to place. You're going to use the driveway civil cell. If you have a lot of curb cut ramps you need to place, you're going to use one of the civil cells GDOT set up. And even cul-de-sacs you can use. And I learned a new one. I got in there and you can do guardrail anchor pads. They have a civil cell for that. So when you click on civil cell, you can go in there and kind of explore around with these things. GDOT's built all these civil cells. If you expand these, there's a There's quite a few under each list here. And I think pretty sure they have videos on these. I think if you go in the workspace that is installed on your computer, there's a folder out there, under what is the name of that folder? Anyway, it's in the workspace. They have videos on pretty much all these civil cells. You can go in there and follow along with the guy and do them yourself if you want to. So that's kind of what civil cells are. In short, civil cell is a regular cell with design intent behind it. So what time did we have? Did I go through that super fast?
You did, yeah.
Oh my goodness, what time is it?
We're good. We're good.
It's 5:38.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to go back over what I talked about, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me some questions. We talked about a workspace versus a work set, two totally different things. The ribbon interface. I want to kind of, the ribbon interface, I think, if you ever use Civil 3D, it's much like Civil 3D, how it works and operates. We talked about the backstage, customizing your interface, setting up tool frames, using function keys, setting your context menus up when you right click, what happens, things like that. And I didn't go into details on how to do that. I just wanted to make you aware that you can do that. Just because you have to use the GHOT workspace, you can still go in there and customize it how your company wants to use it. We talked about the Project Explorer, where you can go in there and kind of see at a quick glance what's in the file as far as design elements. We talked about ORD geometry versus MicroStation graphics, two totally different things. We talked about the heads-up display and getting the properties through that way. Sheet master, file federation, all the design components are in the file now rather than having to open up or set up an RWK that opens up an ALG, ETN, all that stuff, like in OpenRoads. And we talked about name boundaries and civil cells. So, I'm not an expert by any means, but do I have any questions?
I guess my biggest question would be, do you have any tips and tricks to the sheet master? I've kind of tried to use it a few times, but I haven't put it on my way. I know it's supposed to be built, to your point, it's supposed to be pretty straightforward, but.
Yeah, you're supposed to be, so if you set the sheet master up, if you use a clean GDOT2DC file first, attach your reference files per whatever the EDG tells you to. And the big thing is you have to name them with the right logical name.
Yeah.
Or you talking about when you go up to set levels and all that, for that to work?
Yeah, I mean, kind of just never really got it to work right.
So if you attach all your reference files and attach the road, first you want to set your road file up. Your road file is going to have all your design attached to it, your corridor, your super, and your geometry. First set that file up, and set the sheet master up and attach all the reference files, but make the road file live nesting. That way, I think the sheets grab the limits from your corridor. Some people are still using the limit file. I like to use, if I've got a straight road, I'll use the corridor limits. If you have like an intersection, your model is not perfect, your limits aren't gonna look right. So you still gotta use that limit file. So it kind of depends on how you use it. We've had to go in there and tweak the macro, the level macros, because we use a road file instead of a main file. I think GDOT's trying to, shift from everybody using main to the road file. But there are still some people that use main and they still have main levels out there. So it kind of depends on how you use it. But the main thing is getting your reference file name right with the logical names. That's how the levels are turning, that's how the macros are turning your levels on and off in the sheets.
Last time I used it was one of the first versions that they were releasing it, so maybe I need to go back and give it another shot. But
Yeah, now I will say they had problems with, the way the reference files were attached. It wasn't saving level displays in sheet files. Because I've been in the sheet and get my levels set right with macros, pop out, come back in, and everything's back. And I'd have to plot it right there.
yeah,
But, I think they fixed that. Like I said, when you attach a reference file, they fixed all the settings in there. I think it's like level, display override, and some of those other settings. Don't mess with any of that stuff if you use the C file, because they have it set where it works now. Yeah,
A name boundary question and a civil cell question.
Okay.
I actually have two questions. For the name boundaries, you were talking about setting the scale, and then it'll just cut your sheets automatically. Amazing. Love that. What about if, so that'll kind of, it'll lay it out such that all the sheets are about, they're the same length and they show the same amount of
Yeah.
corridor. If I wanted to control, okay, if we cut everything automatically, we're splitting this intersection, I would rather shift a little bit less on the previous sheet and a little bit more on this sheet, or like, can I tell ORD to be more specific per view and still have everything automatically update?
yes and no.
Okay.
So what I would do is probably use the, name boundaries to run your sheets on the alignment up to your intersection.
Okay,
And then after your intersection,
okay, but do the intersection one manually.
do your intersection manually.
Okay,
And there's, if I go back to, I gotta go to sheet. So right here, like I said, I don't have open rows on this computer. If you click on this one. Oh,
wait, maybe just point to it.
Point,
Yeah.
point to it on the, just point to it on the screen over there with your finger or,
can't see my mouse.
no, use the pointer, use the clicker pointer. There should be a laser pointer.
Okay. That guy right there
Okay,
it'll place a single name boundary and all the GDOT, drawing seeds will come up.
okay,
And I don't know why they haven't set a 50 scale sheet up yet. It's like you use 100 and I think it's 40.
Yeah.
So, but that last icon to the right,
we'll do just one.
we'll do just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Civil cell question. I love the idea, especially for like driveways, being able to use something replicable. How customizable are the cells? Like, I'm gonna design a driveway differently if I've got a sidewalk or if I've got a buffer. Like, there are gonna be different contexts of the existing conditions that are gonna drive my driveway design. Like, how much of that can you plug in?
So they have, most of it's parametric, like you can change the length, the width, you can change the slope of the driveway in there.
Can we change like whether there's a buffer between sidewalk and driveway?
Yes.
Sidewalk is curved, right?
You can
Okay.
change that too. You can change the, I think it's the back of the driveway where the sidewalk comes in, the width. You can change that, or you can just create your own civil cell, which I haven't done a lot of. Yeah, so, you can open those civil cells and, they're in a DG, they're in each of their DGN libraries and kind of see how they created them. Maybe edit them in there. Yeah. Any more questions? I want to get y'all out to y'all's party tonight.
Oh, we still got dinner.
So compared to MicroStation, how much more, I guess, intense from a system requirements point of view is?
Oh, that's a good question. So, fastest computer in the world will not run open roads. It's very, I want to try to watch my words here.
We're recording this,
It's
yeah.
tricky, it's frustrating, but the fastest machine, you can get the fastest machine you can get possible to run it, the better. More memory, better graphics card. You also want to kind of, depending on how long your project is, break it up into mile-long links. Like if you got a 3-mile project, you're gonna have 3 corridors. You may want to put your geometry in one file, but your corridors, you definitely want to break up.
Would you know like the minimum GPU requirements, like what the big bare minimum?
So I have, I think it's, what is it, i7, 3.5 gigahertz with 80 megs, 80 gigs of RAM, pretty fast computer. But the amount of resources it's loading behind the scenes and everything, they've gotten better, with this new 2023, but it's still slow.
The reason I ask that my laptop is, we currently use MicroStation, and laptops we have is actually struggling with MicroStation, so.
So what do you use for your design stuff?
MicroStation, I think V8. Well,
Okay,
yeah, we don't use, design, civil 3D, whatever.
do you use inroads with MicroStation?
Maybe,
Yeah,
we don't have to do 3D at all, no.
so you're not doing any GI projects, you're just doing local?
No, I mean, I work with GDOT.
Oh, you did, okay.
Oh.
But we design, we just use MicroStation and not. open road. Just don't.
Yeah,
I was about to say.
And
Oh, yeah,
traffic.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the bigger the computer you can get, I mean, I don't know what the minimum requirements are. I'm not gonna say something. But like I said, I've got a 3 gigahertz i7, with like 80 gigs of RAM and it's still, yeah. I think that, if you go to the Bentley website, they quote some ridiculous small laptop you can use. It's,
Yes, on Facebook tweet, wants to know on that project.
Uh-huh.
So I put up, a Bentley had an answer on how great MicroStation was, they had all the comments. I just put it on there after for the lunch while I'm waiting for it to slow the file, and had all these types and agrees. If you just read how people are crashing the speed.
yeah, we tried several ways, but the biggest tip I would tell you is to break your corridors up, in segments.
Like if you're working on a file that's a server side file versus like on the C drive, it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it's kind of frowned upon to pull everything to your C drive and work, but sometimes that's what you gotta do.
That's what you gotta do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on.
I try not to do it, but there are corridor files and stuff where it's just like, you're not gonna get anything done if you don't.
Well, the good thing is probably you're the only one working on it, right?
Hope, knock on wood, yeah.
I got 2 questions. One related to file sharing. If someone's using ProjectWise, how does GDOT's workspace, how does that work with Project? Is it pretty smooth, or do they still have to like solve a lot of quirks and little issues?
I don't know a lot about the project-wise side of it. I do know the workspace is on project-wise. I don't have any experience running design of it. It would be, project-wise would be faster than running it off the server because basically all it's doing is copying the files to your hard drive. You're working on them and it's copying them back, right? So that would, be my only, I don't have a lot of experience with ProjectWise, so. Can somebody else answer that question?
Somebody else using ProjectWise?
ProjectWise and
Yeah,
Workspace?
I was at GDOT when it first rolled already out. It was, we were working off the project wise and it, to me, to your point, it worked better than just server side working, like what most consultant teams do. And so, yes, like when you open a file in ProjectWise, it physically copies to your computer. So you have less of that back and forth while you're in the file.
Is the Workspace, the GDOT Workspace copy, is it on, are you pulling it off ProjectWise or is it on your hard drive?
I'm pretty sure the workspace is set up in ProjectWise, but I think when you, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure when you download, when you open the file and it downloads to your C drive, that file is fully on your C drive. So like that seed file and everything, the workspace and all that. It seems to work fine.
Yeah, it mainly depends on how your ProjectWise is set up, whether it's
Yeah.
managed workspace from ProjectWise, or if it's a local setting or something on your hard drive.
Yeah,
Because you can point it either way, right?
Second question is related to the drainage suite. Is that a separate suite altogether, or the drainage, or is that one of the ribbons?
that's one of the reasons is there's a hydrology, set in there where you can do drainage calcs and, I didn't go over that, but
Yeah.
you can do drainage areas, you can set pipes in there. It's a full drainage suite. So yeah.
Yeah, we got one more over here.
Keyboard. Is there any more keyboard functionality built into ORD other than what you went over with the function keys? Like, can I build more keys?
Like,
How many keys may I have?
are you talking about like function keys or?
Things can I do for my keyboard or make it do for my keyboard?
So you can use the control shift function and alt keys down there and then you use the function key. So technically you could have all your function keys and then 4 more sets of those. Like if you do control F1, you could have a command behind that. Is that what you're talking about?
What can I do without pushing buttons?
So you could have, how many function keys are there? 10? 40
40.
Yeah,
different function keys if you want to.
Then they have like the basic ones built in.
Yeah.
Like escape 1, 3, whatever, you know.
Yeah. And you want to save that dot menu file out.
Yeah, you update it.
Yeah. So before everybody leaves, please sign up so we have credit. Yeah.
Yeah, you can still use MicroStation graphics. The only thing you're gonna find that you lose is the connectivity. Like if you change something, like we have a project, I built the corridor and then I drew everything separately out in the road file. You know, a lot of, like I said, GDOT's still tossing this up in the air. I don't know what the thing is, but, a lot of people are still referencing the corridor to, are referencing the corridor to the plan sheets. So that when your corridor EPs change, for example, it's reference to the sheets. It's getting the EPs and sidewalk from the corridor versus the main or the road file. And then there's people that still use like MicroStation graphics like you're talking about, in reference to the sheets. But the only thing you're gonna lose is, like I said, the connectivity with your geometry. If you change an offset, you know, like a paper, everything downline changes and everything before it changes, you might lose that. But
When
yeah,
you put your alternative stuff like, oh, I wanna, this is one alternative, this is another alternative, where do you put those?
so like alternatives,
Yeah,
like for the concept,
yeah, if you're just trying a few things out, you know.
I would put in different models. I would use like, not 3D models, but the models, the drawing models. Yeah,
Is it safe to say that the tool that you're describing within Open Roads is almost, it's like parametric line work?
the ORD geometry, yeah.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's lines that have rules behind it. It's rules-based geometry. Yeah, you're gonna find the bigger the project, they haven't worked out all the kinks with that yet, but, so, just, I would say just be careful, or pay attention how you build it, you know, off your alignment, how you lay it out, keep it simple, and use the right feature definition. Yeah.
All right,
Any more
last question. Anybody?
Plan line work. You go to like make your 13 series, is it coming from like the line where you have in the road drawing, or is it coming from the?
Like I was saying earlier, some people are using the cord. Some people are using the road file, some people are using the main file. I don't think GDOT has a, what's the word I'm looking for, a requirement. Because I've talked to some internal people that are using with GDOT, that some are using the main file still, some are using the road, some are using the graphics from the corridor. I would say if you have a straight, you know, no intersections on your project, you could use the corridor. But if you have any intersections, that's where you're gonna get, kind of your graphics don't look right if your model is not right. So,
You're just not gonna.
right,
So, all right, so we're gonna stop there. If you've got other questions, Jake will be up here for just a couple more minutes, but I want to tell you from a company standpoint, get everybody on the same page. Don't have 5 different people doing it 5 different ways because they've gone online and figured, you know, this is what online, get it together inside your company and say, hey, this is the way we're doing it. And it's an evolving process, right? So if
Yeah.
somebody comes up with something better, we change the way we do it, but it's got to be consistent and company wide. So,
yeah.
all right.
That's a good point. Thank you all.